I appreciate why he asks, and I appreciate that people would like plenty of time to have a look at any map that is proposed before the map is final. I don't disagree. If there's an opportunity to do that, I'd love to be able to jump right in and do just that. And I certainly haven't ruled anything out. Let me just say that we're still at the information gathering stage, and to the extent that we can get our work done in a timely fashion, terrific. Let me just remind you, though, that people being people, we tend not always to be quite as disciplined as we would like to be. I don't know what the number of filers with the Internal Revenue Service managed to get there before midnight Monday or whatever day it was. Today, isn't it today? Or no, it was last week. People always think they're going to get things done early, and people being people, we often run up against the deadline. Given that, I'm not going to make any commitments, any firm commitments, but we certainly are hopeful that we can have hearings after maps are proposed.
So what progress have you made so far on the maps?
I would say very little, that we're really, as I said, at the information gathering stage. This is the 15th hearing that the House committee has had across the state. So this is, as far as I know, the last committee so far. More may be added, but what we are doing is gathering information from community groups, organizations, ethnic and racial groups, anyone who wants to come forward and speak his or her mind. You heard the woman representing herself from the village of Samumu, I think it was, or some whatever. Anyway, she was of the view that districts ought to be rectangular. Well, I can appreciate why people think that they ought to be. We had compelling testimony at Chicago State University from a member of the geography department, a professor in the geography department. I think the other may have been in history. And one of the points they made is that if you have to have districts that are practically equal, substantially equal in population, and you're required to respond to the Voting Rights Act and the Illinois Voting Rights Act, and you take into account traditional redistricting principles, respecting geographical boundaries, respecting political boundaries, you're hard-pressed to draw rectangles. So the funny shapes that you see may not at all be attempt to gerrymander. They may just reflect the difficulty of drawing 118 House and 59 Senate districts across the state, when you have to make sure there's substantial population equity, you have to make sure you are giving voice to members of minority groups, you need contiguity, and you're trying to be compact, and you're also looking at the other traditional principles of remap.
So Democrats are in control of the Senate, and they're also in control of the House. How will that affect the drawing of the lines process?
As I say, we're now in the information gathering mode, so I don't know the answer.
And what progress do you need to have made by June 30th?
Well, if we don't have a map by June 30th, then the whole thing is kicked out of the legislature's control altogether and the governor's control, and it goes into a commission, a bipartisan commission, which if it fails to adopt a map by a majority vote, then we go to the tiebreaker, which many people make fun of, the idea that you're pulling a name out of a hat believed to have been worn by Abraham Lincoln, and that name becomes the tiebreaker. But in fact, of course, the reason for that provision in the 1970 Illinois Constitution was to encourage bipartisanship, to encourage the members of both political parties to come to a consensus on the theory that neither party wanted to leave it entirely in the hands of the other. But the reality over the 1980, 90, and 2000 is that apparently the parties were all prepared to go to the flip of a coin.
So do you think it's likely that'll happen?
It's way too early for me to make a guess.
Is it also too early to make a guess on when the map will be drawn?
It sure is. Thank you.